How can you possibly forgive him? How can you look towards heaven, towards the source of all comfort you once believed in, and not feel the searing heat of betrayal, the icy grip of anger twisting in your gut? You're asking, maybe screaming into the silence where their voice used to be, how could you, God? How could you take the most important person, the very center of my world, away from me? It feels fundamentally wrong, a violation of some unspoken covenant you thought you had with the divine. You served him, you trusted him, you poured your heart out in prayer, and this is the reward? This gaping wound, this deafening silence, this future stretched out before you like a barren wasteland? The very idea of forgiveness feels like treason against your own grief, against the memory of the one you lost. It feels like saying it was okay, that the pain doesn't matter, that the injustice wasn't real. And it was real. The shockwaves are still rattling your bones. The emptiness is a physical ache, a phantom limb syndrome of the soul. You walk through the motions. Maybe you even smile in public because the world keeps spinning, oblivious to the fact that yours is ground to a halt, shattered into a million unrecognizable pieces. But inside, you're still crying, aren't you? Still reeling from the blow. The questions circle like vultures. Why them? Why now? Why me? Was it something I did? Something I failed to do? Did my faith waver too much? Did I not pray hard enough? Or is God simply cruel, indifferent, playing games with human hearts? You cycle through bargaining, denial, depression, and always, back to that burning anger directed squarely at the one you were taught to love with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Forgiving a human who wronged you is hard enough, but forgiving God? The omnipotent, omniscient being who could have prevented it, who could have intervened, who holds the universe in his hands. It feels impossible, maybe even blasphemous to consider. Yet, somewhere deep beneath the layers of rage and sorrow, there's a flicker, isn't there? A desperate yearning for peace, for understanding, for a way to reconcile the love you once felt with the agony you feel now. You're trapped between the rock of your grief and the hard place of your faith, and it feels like you're being crushed. You remember the verses about God's love, His goodness, His plans for a hope and a future, and they sound like hollow echoes, mocking reminders of a reality that no longer seems to apply to you. How can Jeremiah 29 verse 11 coexist with the empty chair at your table? How can Romans 8 verse 28, the promise that He works all things for good, possibly be true when the greatest good in your life has been ripped away, leaving only wreckage? The disconnect is jarring, painful, creating a cognitive dissonance that frays your nerves and exhausts your spirit. You might have even stopped praying, or perhaps your prayers have turned into accusations, into raw, unfiltered cries of anguish. And let me tell you, that honesty, that raw outcry, is not necessarily a sign of failing faith. Sometimes, it's the only authentic faith you have left. Look at Job, look at David in the Psalms. They didn't approach God with polite, sanitized grief. They raged, they questioned, they demanded answers. They wrestled with God, and perhaps that wrestling, that refusal to simply turn away in bitterness, is itself a profound act of faith. But the question remains, forgiveness. How? Why? Is it even required? Let's unpack this, not with easy platitudes, but with the brutal honesty this kind of pain deserves. The first hidden truth you need to confront is that forgiving God isn't about letting Him off the hook. It's not about suddenly saying, "Oh, I understand now, it was all for the best." That might never happen this side of eternity. You may never understand the why behind your loss, and forcing yourself to accept a reason that feels false only deepens the wound. Forgiveness, in this context, is primarily for you. It's about releasing the corrosive acid of bitterness that is eating away at your own soul. Unforgiveness towards God acts like a poison, sealing off your heart not only from Him but potentially from others, from joy, from healing. It keeps you tethered to the moment of impact, forced to relive the trauma endlessly. Think of it like holding a burning coal, wanting to throw it at God, but realizing you're the only one getting burned. Forgiveness is the act of dropping that coal, not because He deserves it, from your perspective right now, but because you deserve to not be consumed by its heat. It's a form of self-preservation, a reclaiming of your own inner peace, however fragile. Does this minimize the pain? Absolutely not. Does it excuse the loss? Never. It simply changes who is primarily suffering from the ongoing anger. The pain of loss is immense, unavoidable. The suffering born of sustained, corrosive bitterness? That, perhaps, is something you can eventually choose to release, not for God's sake, but for yours. It's a staggering thought, almost offensive in its simplicity against the backdrop of complex agony, but it's a crucial first step. Recognizing the benefit of forgiveness lies within your own healing journey. The second insight, often obscured by the fog of grief, revolves around perspective, the vast, almost incomprehensible difference between our human viewpoint and God's eternal understanding. We see life as a linear progression, a finite span measured in years, marked by milestones and relationships. Our perspective is inherently limited by time, by our immediate experiences, by the depth of our earthly attachments. God, however, operates outside of time. He sees the beginning from the end, the entire tapestry, not just the single thread that represents our current moment or even our entire lifespan. Could it be that from his vantage point, this agonizing separation is but a momentary, light affliction compared to the eternal weight of glory he has prepared? 2 Corinthians 4 verse 17. Now, hearing that verse in the midst of profound loss can feel incredibly invalidating, almost cruel. Paul wrote that while facing beatings, shipwrecks, and constant peril, his suffering was immense. Yet, he framed it against the backdrop of eternity. This doesn't mean your pain isn't real or devastating now. It is. It means that God's calculus, his understanding of good and purpose and time, might operate on a scale we simply cannot grasp from our position. Think about a child crying because a parent takes away a sharp object they were enjoying playing with. The child feels wronged, deprived, angry at the parent who caused the pain. The parent, however, sees the bigger picture, the potential for greater harm, and acts out of love, even though the action causes immediate distress. Is God like that? Perhaps. Not in a simplistic way that makes the loss trivial, but in a way that suggests his reasons, his view of life, death, and eternity, are far beyond our current comprehension. This doesn't magically make the pain disappear, but it can introduce a sliver of possibility. What if this isn't the end of the story? What if God's definition of taking away isn't the same as ours? What if, from his perspective, he was welcoming them home, into a reality far greater than the one they left, even as it shattered yours? Wrestling with this concept, the sheer scale of God's perspective versus our own intensely personal, temporal grief, is part of the journey. It requires acknowledging the limits of our understanding without dismissing the validity of our feelings. It's okay to say, God, I don't understand this. I can't see it from your perspective, and it hurts more than words can say, while still holding onto the possibility that his perspective is different, wider, ultimately rooted in a love we can't fully fathom right now. This leads to a third, perhaps shocking, realization: God is not afraid of your anger. He can handle it. He's not some fragile deity whose ego is bruised by your honest cries of pain and accusation. Think about it. The creator of the universe, the one who spoke galaxies into existence, is not intimidated by your tears or your clenched fists. In fact, engaging with him honestly, even in anger, is far more intimate and ultimately more faithful than turning away in cold silence or pretending everything is okay when it's clearly not. The Psalms are filled with raw emotion directed at God: confusion, betrayal, despair, rage. Psalm 44 asks, "Awake, Lord! Why do you sleep? Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our misery and oppression?" 1 Psalm 88 is one long cry of despair ending in darkness. God included these in his inspired word. Why? Perhaps to show us that he invites our authentic selves, our broken hearts, our tangled emotions. He would rather have you wrestling with him, yelling at him, questioning him, than have you give up on the relationship altogether. Your anger, in a strange way, might be a testament to the depth of the relationship you had or want to have. You wouldn't be this angry if you didn't care, if you didn't believe, on some level, that he should have acted differently, that he is powerful enough, loving enough. Turning towards God with your anger, instead of letting the anger turn you away from him, is a critical turning point. It allows the possibility of dialogue, of encounter, even if it's a painful one. It keeps the door open, however slightly, for his comfort, his peace, his perspective to eventually filter through, perhaps in ways you least expect. So, give yourself permission to be angry at God, not just about the situation. Tell him exactly how you feel, unfiltered. He already knows your heart, your thoughts, your rage. Voicing it isn't informing him, it's acknowledging the reality of your inner world and bringing it into the space of your relationship with him, however fractured it may feel. This honest engagement is often the hidden path towards eventually finding a way to forgive, because it keeps you connected, wrestling like Jacob, refusing to let go until you receive some form of blessing, some touch from the divine, even if it leaves you walking with a limp. Then there's the difficult, often resisted, principle embedded in suffering, the potential for transformation and deeper connection. This is not about seeking pain or glorifying it, but acknowledging a profound spiritual mystery, that God often meets us most powerfully in our deepest valleys, not just on our mountaintops. When your world has gone silent, when the structures of your life and faith have crumbled, you are in a unique position, albeit an agonizing one, to encounter God in a new way. The old certainties are gone. The easy answers have failed. You are left with raw need, raw vulnerability. It's in this space, the wilderness of grief, that God's presence, the subtle whisper of the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, can sometimes be felt more acutely than ever before. It might not feel like a booming voice or a sudden epiphany, but perhaps like a sustained strength you didn't know you had, a moment of unexpected peace amidst the storm, a sense of not being entirely alone even in your profound isolation. Furthermore, suffering has a way of stripping away the superficial layers of our faith, forcing us to grapple with what we truly believe. It purges illusions and demands authenticity. The faith that emerges from the crucible of loss, if you allow it to, can be deeper, more resilient, more compassionate than anything you knew before. You develop an empathy for others' pain that was previously impossible. Your understanding of God's grace might shift from an abstract concept to a desperate lifeline. You might find that your relationship with God, once characterized by easy praise and clear skies, is being rebuilt on a foundation of hard-won trust, honest doubt, and a profound awareness of your utter dependence on Him. This transformation is not guaranteed, nor is it a justification for the loss. It's a potential outcome, a testament to God's ability to bring beauty from ashes, strength from weakness, hope from despair, as promised in Isaiah 61. It requires a willingness, even when every fiber of your being resists, to remain open to how God might be working in you, even when you cannot understand what He is doing around you. Forgiving God, then, might also involve forgiving Him for not meeting your expectations, for shattering your previous image of Him, and allowing a new, more complex, more mysterious, and perhaps ultimately more intimate picture to emerge. It's about accepting that His ways are not our ways, and His thoughts are not our thoughts, Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9, and choosing to trust His character, His fundamental goodness and love, even when His actions are incomprehensible and devastatingly painful. This trust isn't blind. It's a choice made in the dark, often fueled by nothing more than the memory of past faithfulness or the desperate hope of future restoration. Finally, consider the nature of true forgiveness itself. It's rarely a one-time event, especially when the wound is this deep. It's a process, often a messy, non-linear one. There will be days when you feel a measure of peace, a sense of release, and days when the anger and pain surge back with overwhelming force. This is normal. Forgiveness is a choice you may have to make repeatedly, sometimes moment by moment. It's like peeling an onion. You deal with one layer, only to find another beneath it. Be patient with yourself. Grant yourself grace. The pressure to get over it, or be strong or forgive already, whether from others or yourself, can be incredibly damaging. Healing takes time, and wrestling with God takes time. What does this process look like practically? It might involve continuing to cry out to God honestly, reading scriptures not for easy answers but for companionship and lament, like the Psalms or Lamentations, seeking support from trusted, faith-filled friends or counselors who won't offer platitudes but will sit with you in the darkness, and focusing on tiny steps. Maybe today, forgiveness looks like simply not turning your back completely. Maybe tomorrow, it looks like whispering a prayer, however hesitant. Maybe next month, it looks like acknowledging one small way God has sustained you even amidst the pain. It's about leaning into the paradox, holding both your immense grief and your fragile faith simultaneously. It's about understanding that your love for the person lost and your anger at God can coexist, just as your trust in God and your profound questions can coexist. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past or negate the pain. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to loosen the grip that bitterness has on your heart, bit by bit, so that you can eventually breathe again. It's about trusting that God, who endured the ultimate separation and injustice on the cross, understands your pain more deeply than you can imagine. Jesus himself cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27 verse 46. He entered into the abyss of separation and loss. He is not distant from your suffering. He is intimately acquainted with it. Clinging to this truth, that you worship a suffering God who understands, who weeps with you, John 11 verse 35, can be a powerful anchor. He didn't promise a life free from pain, but he did promise his presence through it all, Matthew 28 verse 20. The ultimate forgiveness might come when you reach a place where you can trust his presence more than you need his explanations. It's a profound shift, moving from demanding answers to resting, however tentatively, in his character and his ultimate promise of restoration, where he will wipe away every tear, and death shall be no more. Revelation 21 verse 4. That future hope doesn't fix the present pain, but it can provide a horizon, a reason to keep putting one foot in front of the other, a reason to keep wrestling, keep seeking, keep choosing, moment by moment, to drop the burning coal of unforgiveness, not for his sake, but for yours, trusting that somehow, someday, he will make all things new. This journey is incredibly personal, intensely difficult, and there are no easy formulas. But you are not alone in asking these questions, and feeling this rage, this deep sense of betrayal. Keep wrestling, keep seeking, keep being honest with him. The path to forgiving God often winds through the valley of honest lament, guided by the faint light of a hope that refuses to be entirely extinguished. It's a fight for your own soul, your own peace, your own future relationship with the God who, despite your current agony, still claims to love you with an everlasting love. Hold on to that possibility, even if only by a thread. If this raw exploration of grief, faith, and the struggle to forgive resonates with you, if you're navigating your own wilderness and seeking honest conversations about faith in the face of loss, consider subscribing. We walk this path together, seeking his light even in the deepest shadows.